to continue working with the martial power system that we are developing for Dungeons and Dragons 5th or 6th or 20th edition, whatever edition it is. We're building stuff. We're going to do some mechanical design. We're revising subclasses for the different martial classes. We're going to work on the Rogue Inquisitor today. Give me a second here to check my signal, boost my channel, and then we'll get started. So checking my signal here, check. We'll get started. That is coming through loud. Definitely clear, definitely loud. All right, there's that and there, and then let me go ahead and just push this out real quick to folks. I'm on Twitter at Phil Kearney, just like the name of my channel. So if you want to find out stuff that I'm like when I'm live in the future, what I got going on. You are certainly welcome to plug in with me through Twitter at Phil Kearney. I publish D&D and role-playing game supplements. I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past couple years. A lot of the content that I've produced is on DMsGuild, which is, they're all linked in the description down below, as well as you can see here, like the cover that for one of the bundles that I produced. Give me a second here to click buttons. Blop, blop. Nope, hold on. Yep, there we go. 5 years development and okay, cool. So that is all good. Yeah, so you can check out the work that I've done. Most of it's like heavy preview, so you can get the gist of everything that's inside of the books. If you like the artwork, if you like the mechanics I developed, consider purchasing some of it to support the channel. Otherwise, you can follow me on YouTube. You can check out my Patreon at Phil Kearney. And let's see, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to continue boosting the signal of the channel. But today, like I said, we're going to work on the Inquisitive. So if you are new to the stream, welcome to the mix. We have a Google Doc here. If you actually follow the link in my Patreon down below, let me make sure everything is sitting proper here on screen. Let's do it. Something feels off in my calibration. Oh well, I ain't gonna sweat it too hard. If you follow my Patreon link, find out more about monochromatism, players early looks at Patreon. There we go. Patreon channel here, and let's see, about Phil Kearney, martial power system. Nope, that's just our channel that we're streaming right now. You can show more here. Click into martial powers recent. There we go, martial powers playtest content. That takes you to this read-only open playtest document here that we've got loaded up here, so you can read along with it. This is full level 20 progression for. Let's get to the screen here. For barbarians, fighters, monks, paladins, rangers, and rogues, as well as there's caveats for both artificers and warlocks to use this system as well. It's currently being built for 5e, and I anticipate it being published before 5th edition is changed to whatever the 2024 configuration is. But so far, everything that we've been seeing in the 2024 revisions is something that we're going to be able to support with this project as well. It's just going to be a matter of looking at the updates and making revisions from there. Like, for example, weapon masters don't really get in the way of what we're doing here. Something, yet again, another thing that that Wizards has decided to do that we're on episode 66 here. So for the past year, we've been developing these different powers and alternate class mechanics. And I'm really happy to see, hey, Knack, I am really happy to see that Wizards has taken the recommendation of empowered sneak attacks. They did it a little bit differently if you checked out the most recent playtest document, but the way that we have it is that at 3rd level, when you deal sneak attack damage, you can reduce your sneak attack damage dice by 2 dice to gain a temporary point of mana to spend on a strike power that you know. And the maximum temporary mana that you can spend this way increases by 1 point every 4 levels, reducing your sneak attack damage by an additional 2d6 each. Reduce up to 4 dice to gain 2 points. Reduce 6 dice to gain 3 points. Reduce 8 dice to get 4 points. And up to 10 dice to gain 5 points at 19th level. And of course, there are at most 10 sneak attack dice. The way that we have it configured, which is admittedly different from how 1D&D does it, but we'll be able to bridge the difference once we get there, is you start off with a D6, which is basically the same as your sneak attack dice. By 9th level, you upgrade to a D8, and at 17th level, you upgrade to a D10. So if you are, say, at 19th level and you dump all of your sneak attack dice, all 10d6, to instead get 5 points of mana to spend on a strike, that would be 5d10 damage. So you're going to be doing a little less damage than you would normally do with your sneak attack. But then on top of that, you will have the option of picking one of the strikes that you know, of which we have a lot of them. So if we're looking at strikes, some of this stuff is going to sound a little familiar, some of it's going to be a little differently, but for instance, Poisoning Strike. Your weapon deals poison damage and add 1 power die per mana burned. In addition, the creature is poisoned. The creature can attempt to end this effect by at the end of each of its turns by succeeding a Constitution saving throw. That is a first rank power. So a 3rd level rogue that knows the Poison Strike power would be able to get rid of both of their sneak attack dice and instead gain 1 point of mana. At 3rd level, that 1 point of mana is going to give them 1d6 worth of damage, plus the poison condition, which the target then gets to make saving throws from. As opposed to, like, say, poisoning, which I believe 1D&D has right now, get rid of one of your d6s and you deal poison damage. It breaks out the same at that level. At higher levels, you don't need to be taxing them hit points to allow them to do extra effects, because everyone knows at high levels, sneak attack damage just really isn't that important when you're fighting things that have 400 hit points a pop. So the scaling is the same. Hey, Chronic, good to see you, my man. I'm glad to see that Wizards has yet again adopted some of the principles that we've been dictating for the past year that are good for the class. But since they are looks like they're going to be taking these empowered sneak attack ideas, we're going to end up making that a base function if you use this martial power system. But what we do here is we're introducing a mana system, kind of like the Eldritch Knight or like Rangers or Warlocks, that they have a budget of mana that they can spend on powers. We use spell points. There's 5 ranks that level up at the same rate as half-casters. So at 17th level, you're at 5th rank powers, which means you can channel up to 5 mana. And each of the classes has their own little spin on how you can gain additional mana. Like we were showing here, you can get free mana off of the rogue by dropping sneak attack dice. But another thing that a rogue we have all the different classes, all the other subclasses of the rogue. I'm going to catch up with you in a second. But the rogue, like for example, power over precision at 9th level. You can temporarily reduce your sneak attack dice for additional mana. As a bonus action, you can sacrifice 1 sneak attack die to regain 1 spent point of mana for each die sacrificed this way up to your total sneak attack dice. When you finish a short or long rest, you regain the sacrificed sneak attack dice, and any temporary mana remaining is lost. So rogues really lean into skill challenges and social and exploration interaction with characters, or with the world around them. So if you're on short rests, if you're in a non-combat setting, like if you're doing a town investigation or running around, your player can choose to sacrifice their sneak attack dice so that they can regain mana, so that they can spend that mana on skill boosts or gaining new perceptions like blind sense or mind sense or tremor sense, various different things that they can do, or like gaining a climb speed so they can traverse a wall, where you're leaning into exploration and social challenges and you don't need your sneak attack dice. You can risk getting rid of your sneak attack dice so you get more mana, so you can blow that mana on things that amp up your social and exploration capabilities as a rogue, as an expert. So what we're going to do today is we're specifically going to explore the Inquisitive. But before I do that, let me catch up. Hey guys. It applies the poison condition. Actually, the assassin has a special feature that deals 2d6 poison damage each. Oh, okay, cool. Right on. Power Rogue is the exploit god. Yes, Power Rogue is an exploit god. We can look at some of that stuff here real quick before we dive into it further, just to get an idea. Like, those are strikes that we're yeah, thank you. The assassin can do poison. If you want to feel like an assassin without necessarily having to be an assassin, you could pick up a poisoning strike. But you could just as easily pick up a shocking strike, which is when your weapon deals lightning damage. You add dice of damage for each mana that you burn, and the creature can't take reactions until the end of their turn. There may be a weapon mastery that does something similar to that. I'm not going to bank on anything that's going to be in 1D&D until they actually publish the book. That's when we'll actually do conversion over. But this should publish before that happens, which means that once it's up on DMsGuild, it'll always be there. So even if I do convert to a 1D&D format, I'll still be able to include the original 5e document in the zip folder that goes along with all the mana tokens, the mana playmats, and all the fiddly bits that go along with the books that I create, like you can see in descriptions down below. Hey, Ornetica. It's good to see you, my guy. So we're looking at the Inquisitive today. As if this is your first time, the way that we do this is... Hold on real quick. Let's see. Go to here, and then Notepad... let's see, we're going to jump into here, the Inquisitive. We're going to pick up all the things that the Inquisitive can do, and then we're going to see how they jive with the system that we've been building. And if they're good to go as is, then it's no changes necessary. Ideally, there are no changes necessary, but sometimes there's some fiddly bits that contradict what we're trying to do that will make a modification for it. But a lot of time, like paladin stuff, almost everything that's in the paladin currently doesn't need to be changed at all. Like all the oaths and subclasses that they have, almost all that stuff just works perfectly well as is. We're just like for the paladin and the ranger that are already half casters, all we're really doing is just adding alternate options to spend their mana on. Like they could take their normal spells if they want, but like if you want to use our mana system here for smites and strikes, you can replace all the smites that a paladin would have with these 22 different smite or strike powers. Paladins gain an additional die of damage over other classes that were to take strike features. So, but we also have reactions, which are self-explanatory. When when the conditions occur, you can spend the mana to get the reaction to do what you want. We have maneuvers, which are both action or bonus actions to trigger. You could potentially trigger them both. You can trigger the same maneuver twice in the same round if you wanted to, if that is good for your whatever it is that you're attempting to do, your strategies for the moment. And then the exploits, like we're talking about earlier, like for example, commanding presence. When you make an ability check that can use the intimidate, performance, or persuasion skill, roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest roll to the result. So like if you were to say you're 10th level as a rogue, that would give you... Let's get to it. Up here. 10th level as a rogue, say. That would have a D8. So, and at 10th level or 9th level or above, you can spend up to 3 mana whenever you do something. So, what we're looking at, commanding presence. When making an ability check, you can use the intimidate, persuasion, or performance skill. Roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest result. So, using that language, when we're looking at this 10th level, you could spend up to 3 mana. That would allow you to roll 3d8 to add to the results of your skill check or your ability check using a skill modifier, again, of intimidate, performance, persuasion, but you would only use the best result. So at some point, there is a diminishing point of return. Like, don't really need, unless... It's rare that you would actually need to use more than 3 mana, but at 17th level, you could use 5, and they would all be D10s, but you would only get the best result. So on average, if you're throwing 2 dice, at least one of those 2 dice that you're throwing is probably going to be 5 or more. 3 dice, you're probably going to get 7 or more. 5 dice, you're probably going to get 8 or more, but you had to spend 5 mana to do it. So at some point, there's like, you have to look at the depreciating return of investment that you get, the depreciating value of spending mana. But if you really got to get if you really have to hit like a DC 36, you're this level, you could throw a fistful of dice, add all your stuff to it, and get a good result. So, but there's a ton of exploits that work that way. Some of the exploits don't use ability checks at all. Like, Like, for example, Overrun. Channel the exploit as part of your move action. You can move through the spaces occupied by creatures. This movement can trigger opportunity attacks unless 3 or more mana is burned to channel this power. Creatures move through this way take 1 power die of force damage for each mana burned. If you end your turn in a space occupied by another creature, you instead end your turn in the most recently unoccupied space that you move through during your turn without dealing any damage to the creature. Creatures can only take damage this way once each round. It's very similar to a Chardelon's Stride, and if you're on top of the 1 D&D playtesting, this is almost exactly, except for the damage type, it's about literally what the new 4-element playtest content provides to you. So a lot of this stuff is going to look similar. I mean, a lot of it's low-hanging fruit. It's just all being mechanically configured into a mana system so that you can have everybody be a spellcaster, all having options that they can choose each level to have powers or spells available to them, so that marshals are on the same footing as spellcasters in that they have a variety of different things that you can do outside of just the subclass to be able to create different action loops and different fantasy hero formatting so that you can play the kind of character that you want. You could play a rogue cleric. You'd be able to blend the cleric and the rogue pools of mana together so that you would have both spells and powers that you would be able to spend, which we have rules in here for multi-classing into different types of spellcasting. So anyway, rambling on, singing my song, trying to help indoctrinate those that are new. So we're going back into the Inquisitive here. What we'll do here is we'll translate each of these features. I need to start a timer. We will translate each of these features, and if they don't need to be changed, all the better. And then once we go through the features and we see what the Inquisitive is capable of doing, we'll then go in with a power list here, and we'll give them 2 powers each level, which will either be one of these exploits, a sustain power, a strike, a reaction maneuver, or there's also a list of feats that you can learn instead. So a character, you can get up to 16, you can have up to 16 powers at 20th level, and it's very possible for your character to be able to take nothing but feats. If you don't want to screw around with mana at all and you just want to buff out your character using the mechanics that you're already familiar with, then you can just throw your mana into the wind and just learn a shitload of feats and save all of your 4th, 6th, 8th, 12th, whatever feats for ability score improvements so that you can continue building your character's stats while also getting the type of feats that you want. And of course, once 1 D&D comes out, we'll see what feats remain and we'll update the list accordingly. If they end up implementing level prerequisites, those are also easily implemented because you can change all of your powers every level. You can completely change out your entire kit. I hope that is something that they decide to implement for 1 D&D for like sorcerers and bards, to allow them just to completely swap out their entire prep list every time they level up so that they aren't penalized for multiple levels if they make bad choices at early levels and the campaign goes in a different direction. It's not like they're preparing a whole new spell list every day, which is honestly, it's a grind on, if you go through a number of days and your team is dynamic, having to wait for your wizard and your cleric to pick the spells that they want to prepare that day, honestly, it's a pain in the ass. I'm more of a favor of locking you in with limited options to know over the course of a level and then changing it, but that's just me. I'm a little more restrictive in that sense. So let's see what we got here. Ear for Deceit. When you choose this archetype at 3rd level, you develop a talent for picking out lies. Whenever you make a Wisdom Insight check to determine whether a creature is lying, treat a roll of 7 or lower on the d20 as an 8. There's absolutely no reason to change that. That works perfectly well as is. No changes. And if this entire list ends up being no changes, then we'll just erase all of it and go with features equals no changes. And then we'll build out our power kit accordingly. But let's see Eye for Detail. Starting at 3rd level, you can use a bonus action to make a Wisdom Perception check to spot a hidden creature or object, or to make an Intelligence Investigation check to uncover or decipher clues. Absolutely nothing here is contradicting what we're doing, and it allows you to use a bonus action to do it. I'm all in favor of that. I love it. No changes. Again, our goal is not to change. We don't want changes. If the system works as is, that means that the system is well built. If there are opportunities for us to improve because mechanical language is different, then hopefully we'll be improving upon it. Insightful fighting, 3rd level. You gain this ability to decipher an opponent's tactics and develop a counter to them. As a bonus action, you can make a wisdom insight check against a creature you can see that isn't incapacitated, contested by the target's charisma deception check. If you succeed, you can use your sneak attack against that target even if you don't have advantage on the attack roll, but not if you have disadvantage on it. This benefit lasts for 1 minute or until you successfully use this feature against a different target. I love that. That is super great. So no changes so far. All these things curve really well into what we're already building. And of course, when 1D&D comes out and they rebuild everything, then we'll have to go through this process again, which I think is going to be fun. I'm really excited about the changes that we're seeing in 1D&D so far. I think Wizards is going in, is for marshals anyway. I think they're heading in the right direction. I'm not a big fan of having all the all their class feature stuff being converted into spells, but I suspect there's going to be enough pushback that they're going to revise that in the next 2 playtests. Steady Eye, a big 9th level jump. See, another really great thing about mana systems like this is that there's this huge gap from level 3 to level 9, which is most of the campaign for most people that get to play D&D at all. That is a very wide, dry spot. But for us, by the time you get to 9th level, you have 10 powers that you can spend mana on. So that means that basically every time you're gaining a level between 3 and 9, much like all other spellcasters, you're essentially gaining a powerful feat every time that requires a resource for you to spend, which I think is a really large disconnect considering how much Wizards loves wizards or full casters in general. I'm really surprised they haven't tried to push themselves into a space where they have options like this. I mean, simplicity be damned. If you're playing D&D for the first time and you want a really basic character and you don't want to get confused by all the bells and whistles of spell casting and spell selection and all that stuff, I guess the most popular class currently is a champion, but using this system, you could just have a default kit where you gain an extra 3 feats, and here's the suggested feats that you get for the class archetype that you're using. That would really simplify the process, but it would still open up that mana channel for you to be able to pick and choose things as you get, like, by the time you go in 2 or 3 sessions, you either love the game or you're out. By the time you get that far in, you're already starting to look at what can I really do with this system. That's when you want to open up the toolbox and start playing with all the toys. So it makes sense to limit access in the very beginning at first level by not worrying about a lot of complexity, just locking them into feats that lets them really just crush shit. Depending on what that is when they come out with 1D&D, we'll see like Crusher, literally. Or, Polearm Master, all that stuff. Those are really cool feats to give your character that are static bonuses that are dynamic on the battlefield, as opposed to spells which can be dynamically chosen but have static effects. So, just a difference in mentality there. So let's look at Steady Eye again. We already said Steady Eye is... Oh, Insightful Strike, that's what's... Okay, so Steady Eye. It's funny how many things here are all about eyes and ears, considering that it's the Inquisitive. It's a funny theme. It's a funny theme. So let's see. Steady Eye. Starting at 9th level, you have advantage on Wisdom Perception checks or Intelligence Investigation checks if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn. No reason to change that. We have actually a slew of exploits that are similar to these things. But nothing literally identical to them. So far everything sticks. Unerring Eye. Beginning at 13th level, your senses are almost impossible to foil. As an action, you sense the presence of illusions, shape changers, not in their original form, and other magic designed to deceive the senses within 30 feet of you, provided you aren't blinded or deafened. You sense that an effect is attempting to trick you, but you gain no insight into what is hidden or into its true nature. So within 30 feet of you, provided you aren't blind or deafened. You sense that in effect. Oh, cool. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier and regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. Yeah, okay. No changes. It's good as is. No need to change it. So we'll get into some more interesting stuff here in a minute, I'm sure. I4 weakness. At 17th level, you learn to exploit a creature's weaknesses by carefully studying its tactics and movements. While your insightful fighting feature applies to a creature, your sneak attack damage against that creature increases, wow, by 3d6. I love it. No reason to change that either. So the entire stack equals no changes. There you go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start building our power lists. Like most subclasses, casting subclasses, when they gain new spellcasting levels, they gain free powers or feats. They gain free spells to help lean into the flavor of what that subtype is by granting them free spells that they always have prepared. So what we're doing here is we're granting you a stack of free powers as well, on top of the 16 powers that you automatically know by the time you hit 20th level. You also get 10 free options as well, which is going to end up putting you at 22 of them, as opposed to, I think, full casters currently and half casters with the same stack, I think, are getting, half casters get, 15 plus 10, 25. And then full casters, I believe, are 22 plus 10, so they're around 30. So this still remains, the marshals still remain depleted in comparison to the amount of firepower that they get. But 22 is a shit ton. So it's going to give you tons of ability to be able to customize your own kit. After we give you a package here, then you can take the Inquisitive and build out as much stuff on your own as you want. So we're going to leave this open. We're going to look at 3rd level here, and we are going to look at powers and feats that are available to us. So the general philosophy that we've been holding so far is that at first you gain like one D&D eventually adopted. We have you gaining power at 1st level and onwards. So it becomes a core mechanic of all of these classes: barbarian, fighter, monk, ranger, rogue, paladin. And the artificer and the warlock already gain spell power at 1st level, so there's no change to their kit there. But I'm really happy to have seen them implement that 1st level equals spell casting for all of the half casters as well. I think that was a good decision. So sticking with what we have, the problem though is that you don't have squat for mana at 1st level. So generally what we do is we look for feats and sustained powers that are useful for us at 1st level. As I've discussed before, sustained powers are concentration effects, but if you lock the mana, you don't lose concentration unless you lose consciousness, or you choose to deactivate, or you're targeted by a dispel. So there's a couple caveats that can take it away from you, but generally speaking, if I were to say activate Blind Sense, which is a 1st level, 1st rank sustained power, it costs 1 mana to trigger it. And we have only 1 mana, so if I lock this, I can't use any mana for anything. Like if I just concentrate on it to have Blind Sense, it would be like any other spell that you would maintain concentration on. You could do other things while you're maintaining concentration, but if you get damaged or something else were to make you make a saving throw, it can disrupt your concentration, and then you lose that power. You then have to trigger it again, which spends some of your mana. Alternatively, you can lock your mana. So the only way you get rid of it is by a dispel or being knocked unconscious or beginning a long rest, which is also plans to become unconscious. So same thing. But when you lock it, you lose the ability to use any more mana. When you gain 2nd rank, if you lock 1 mana, you could still use 1 1st rank powers, but you wouldn't be able to use 2nd rank powers because you cut off higher ranks of power. You only have 1 point open, so you can only do 1st rank stuff with that power while you have 1 point locked. Here at first level, you only have 1 point of power. If you lock that 1 point of power, you can no longer use any powers while you're sustaining that locked effect. But you can still use feats. So what we'd like to do is at the very low levels is get a bunch of feats and first rank powers that you can sustain. So you can basically lock your character's components in so that you have a, like if you do get dispelled somehow or you are knocked unconscious because of death saves and stuff like that, you'll still have a pocket of mana available to you at first level. Well, at first level you only have 1 mana, so screw you, Ufus. But that's how it is. So you could know a sustain power, or you could know 2 feats, or sustain power and a feat. You could have them all active at the same time. So what are cool things that we could do for the Inquisitive? The absolute lowest hanging fruit, as always, is Alert or Dungeon Delver. Those are both very, very useful. Maybe Keen Mind. Let's go take a look at Keen Mind. Let's do it. Let's see what that guy does. Keen Mind. What does that do for us? Maybe it's appropriate, maybe it's not. That's interesting. You have a mind that can track time, direction, and detail with uncanny precision. You gain the following benefits. Increase your intelligence by 1. Okay. You always know which way is north. Oh, the intelligence gain. You don't gain intelligence when you pick a power for a stat. So these half bonuses, those are nixed. But you would always know which direction is north. You always know the number of hours left before sunrise or sunset. And you can accurately recall anything you have seen or heard within the past month. Most people might not choose to take Keen Mind, which is why it's such a fantastic option to add to the Inquisitive. So, Keen Mind feat. Easy peasy. What else you got going on? Let's see if there's any cool feats off the any powers off the cuff that we want to be able to grab. Blind Sense isn't really so much an Inquisitive. Fast. Ooh, Inspired Skill. When sustaining this power, you gain proficiency in a skill or tool of your choice. You can channel this power more than once, simultaneously choosing a different... That is actually really useful. Inspired Skill. While you're at exploit 1, while you're maintaining this, you can choose any skill or tool. While you maintain the mana, you know that skill or know how to use those tools. When you drop the mana, then you lose access to it. So this is going to let the rogue basically pick skills on the fly for the cost of 1 mana. At 5th level, that takes us to 2nd rank. So we'll know 2nd rank powers. We can always still know a feat if we want. But let's see what cool stuff is out here in Sustained that might make sense for an Inquisitive specifically. Astute. When gaining this power, gain advantage on intelligence and wisdom checks. It'll cost you 2 mana. Again, 2 mana. So if you lock this, you can't use mana at all. If you just sustain it, you can lose those 2 points if you get hit or fail a saving throw. The way that this loose system works is that damage works the way you expect it. Half the damage equals the DC. But when you make a saving throw, any saving throw, the DC is 10 plus the amount of mana you have tapped. And so you would tap 2 mana to activate Astute, which means that your DC is 12. Strength check, intelligence check, saving throws. Strength saving throw, dex saving throw, intelligence, any 6 of the saving throws. If you roll below a 12, then if you were concentrating on Astute, you would lose it. You'd lose the 2 mana. The power sputters out. And at 5th level, you only have 5 mana at 5th level. So that's you only have 5 mana at 5th level. That's a good chunk of your change. You'd have to start burning sneak attack dice to be able to get some mana back once it gets burned. So there's that risk reward option where in this system, saving throws and damage is much more harsh to you. But you have the option of not having to worry about it by locking it, but by doing that, you cut yourself off of your own mana pool. So there's a lot of fun little balance and exchanges that happen that way. So we've been playtesting from 12th to 18th level for the past 9 months. And it's a fun risk-reward system. If since this document is available for anyone that clicks into my Patreon link in the description down below, it's readily available as an open source, something for people to play with. If you wanted to start messing around with it for yourself, build your own characters, mess around with it like in a rando dungeon to see how it works for you, you may find that you like it too. But I've been using the color mana spell point variant rules that I have on DMsGuild, which is linked down below. I've been using this scaling concentration save DC for about 4 years now in my own games, and it works really well. I've just been using martial powers for the past 9 months, but it's man, I really like that higher risk and reward. Like a 5th level spell is like a DC 15. So high level characters are being punished for wielding high level like an upcast guardian spirit guardian spell, for instance. If you're going to tap that up to like say a 5th level spell slot, the DC is going to be 15. So if I ping you with a Ray of Frost, making you make a Constitution saving throw to prevent yourself from being slowed, but if your con DC fails at 15, you just lost your spirit guardians. So a really fun balancing point with spell points is that you get to use the same spell over and over again. A really great balancing factor against that spammable ability is to force you to get knocked out of it more often. So a DC 15 to any, like, you're not going to have like a 12th level character that would potentially be interested in using a 5th level spell slot for spirit guardians. That cleric is going to have a hard time with a DC 15 saving throw, like an intelligence saving throw. That's going to be rough. Or potentially like a charisma saving throw for a cleric. Those tend to be dump stats, right? So if your DM knows what your team is calibrated to, you can mix up like one physical and one mental stat each combat. You have when you're fighting, when you're building challenges for your team, if you're building in physical and mental stats that the team has to save against, it's almost guaranteed that someone on the team is going to get shafted while someone else is going to rock it. Like if you've got like charisma, constitution, if those are the two stats that you're using, chances are your sorcerer is going to be okay. But your monk could easily get flushed because his charisma and his con are probably not going to be that good. So you can have this fun little weigh and balance. Like if everyone on your team ends up having really good charisma saving throws, then you know that if you want to give them an easy time, you can lean into the charisma and then pick like maybe dexterity or strength, for instance, as a physical stat to attack them. Or if you want it to be a deadly encounter, and if your team doesn't have shit against intelligence, then you want to include an intelligence saving throw in there because they're going to have to dump their resources more quickly, and they're going to have to spend action economy to refresh it and get that shielding system back up in effect for them. That's going to be a more deadly encounter because you're eating through their resources and they can lose them more easily. So anyway, that's just DMing, that's just high level DMing. But you have to have tools in place that really that allow you to take advantage of those weaknesses. The current D&D as it stands doesn't really lean into character weaknesses at all. It keeps everything very simple to make it easy for intro level players to get into the system. But once you get to 7th, 8th level from first level, you are pretty much an expert of how D&D 5e operates. But the depth of mechanics aren't there to complement your skill mastery and a deeper level of tactical interest that you may have. So implementing a system like this where you're punishing people with dynamic saving throw systems is a really fun way to challenge people that are really savvy to how the system works. You can't cover all of your bases. Well, a monk can, but you gotta be like 14th level to do that. So cheers. But anyway, we're building stuff here. So 5th level, a 2nd rank, astute is actually super freaking good. So we're gonna go ahead and just give you astute. Where are we at in the, here we go, astute. Exploit, no, that's a sustained power. 2, and I'm sorry, this is a sustained power as well. Like, I don't like to get into exploit strikes and reactions until around 5th, 9th level because your mana pool isn't very big to be able to do a lot of that stuff. But by the time you get to 9th level plus, If you're going to burn your sneak attack dice, you're going to want to have, well, you're going to want to have some, actually you can get it at 5th level, you can start, well, 3rd level you can start using strikes, but at 5th level we got enough mana. Let's find a strike that we want to include for the Inquisitive, because you can burn your sneak attack dice to get the free strike. So there's no reason for you not to lean into strikes. So let's go find a strike that's going to be fun for this guy. Let's see. Restraining strike, not so much. That's like for grappling and stuff. Provoking strike makes you basically is like a goad. They're going to attack you. Lifesteal it gives you temporary hit points, which the Inquisitive really shouldn't be toe-to-toe combat that much. They're skirmisher. Intimidating strike. Not feeling that. Blinding strike might not be bad. Actually, blinding strike is pretty good. Because if you blind a target, then you can start gaining advantage and attacking against them. So that's actually a really good one. The Axiom strike. Axiom strike. Your weapon can deal radiant damage, and the creature glows with faint light, negating the benefit of invisibility or concealment. The creature must make a wisdom saving throw, or any illusion or shape-changing effect targeting the hit creature ends. That's not horrible. I mean, you have that. Okay, so we have this. What we have? Unerring Eye at 13th level. You sense are almost impossible to foil as an action. You sense the presence of illusion shape changers, not in their original form, and other magic designed to deceive the senses within 30 feet of you, provided you aren't blinded or deafened. Now, you sense that an effect is attempting to trick you, but you gain no insight into what is hidden or into its nature. I feel like we need to do something with that. At 13th level, invisible stuff. We'll work on that. We'll work on that. Let's see. I'm liking Blinding Strike a lot right now, because being able to render your opponent blind is really useful for Rogue just in general, but the rest of your team as well. Let's see. Psionic Strike, you can deal psychic or force damage. Thundering Strike, you can push somebody. Doesn't feel very right. Inquisitive Tripping, no. Poisoning Strike, eh. Grappling, not so much. Goading. Freezing, flaming, disarming, corroding. Yeah, I think Blinding Strike wins here. Again, this is just something you get for free. If you like the idea of any of those, you're like, oh man, I'd like to have that, but we don't give it to you, just pick it yourself. You've got like 7 things you can do at this level. So we'll go with Blinding Strike. Like, it's really great to be able to like take some, like, I don't know if I'd ever want to pick this, but if I give it to you for free, it comes in handy. Strike 2. 9th level, 3rd rank powers, and your die upgrades to a D8. That's pretty sweet. What did you get at? What'd you get at 9th level? Steady Eye. You have advantage on Wisdom, Perception, or Intelligence Investigation checks if you move no more than half your speed on the same turn. Perception and Investigation, that's begging for an exploit. So let's go. I know there's an exploit we can use for that. Hold on. Let's go find it. Where are you at? Inquisitive. Is that the one? Ah! Wisdom, Perception, Intelligence, Investigation. Inquisitive. When making an ability check that can use the Insight, Investigation, or Perception skill, blip, roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest roll of your result. Like, if you decided to pick this up at 3rd level, or 5th, or 7th, or even 8th level, when you roll into 9th level, you get it for free. So you can just replace the thing that you knew, because now you have it for free, and that frees up a slot for you to pick something else. Love that. Let's go with that. What was it again? Inquisitive? 2nd rank. No, that's a 1st rank exploit. Holy Hannah. How awesome. Inquisitive. So So you could spend up to three mana to do 3d8. But again, the max is going to be an 8. You're going to average on with 2 dice. You're probably going to get a 4 or better. You don't. And you have to spend 2 mana. Sorry, you only have to spend 1 mana. So it could just be 1d8 that you're adding, which is great. It's basically bardic inspiration, and you don't even have to use an action or a bonus action or a reaction. It's just when you roll the die, you burn mana, you get the bonus. It's super fluid, an instant effect. Using Magic the Gathering as a base, like a frame of reference. It's an instant effect. You're doing a thing, you spend mana, you do the thing better than you were about to do it. That's 9th level. Is there any other feat that we like at 9th level that could lean into this? There's also reactions. We haven't even touched reactions yet. So let's just go check out feats real quick. And you know, I think there's going to be so many. I think there's going to be so much cool stuff going on. Chef. We'll get to that, I'm sure. But we're at 3rd rank right now, so let's see what cool stuff is. Giant growth, flurry attack, daunting. None of these things really say Inquisitive. So we'll dip out of the sustained powers. This is just the core rules for martial powers. Once this thing publishes, we have a shitload of expansions that we could do, like House Dimir, like Dimir blue-black power, like all the mental machinations and manipulations and charm effects and suggestions and deceptions that House Dimir is famous for from Ravnica. We could build out a kit of like 30 Dimir-specific powers that if you're in House Dimir, you could gain access to these things. A lot of cool stuff we could do. A lot of really cool stuff. Let's see. We're in strikes. Is there a cool strike at 3rd rank? Delusional strike. You can confuse the creature. Compare the results of the highest power die result on the table. I love this. So we know that you start off with a D6, and then by 9th level use a D8. And then by 17th level, you use a D10. So you roll a power die, right? And the highest result of your power die, consult the list. So if you roll a 1 or 2, the creature acts normally. Want, want. 3 to 4, uses all its movement to make a random direction. Roll a D8 to choose, north, south, east, west, whatever. So 5 or 6 at first level of 5. Well, it's a 3rd rank power, so you don't even get it until 8. So 7 plus on your D8, you have to roll a 7 or more to be able to get the creature doesn't move or take actions this turn. But when you're at 17th level, you roll a D10. So 7, 8, 9, or 10 on your power die gets this awesome result. Otherwise, a 5 or 6 melee attack against a random creature within. Thank you. Reach otherwise does nothing. And then moves in a random direction or has no effect. High risk, high reward. But it deals psychic damage no matter what, so you're always getting benefit. I kind of like that. Nah, not for the Inquisitive, though. I think for this would be a great one for the wild, the wild magic barbarian, whatever it's called. This would make a lot of sense for that one. I think it also makes sense for like the Drunken Master, the Drunken Master monk. We still need to build kits of power for monks, so we'll get back to that. Hey, Tyler. Let's see. Yeah, no, I don't see that. So let's go ahead and move out of strikes and let's check out. Any reactions that might make sense at this point. Let's see. Get this out of the way. I'm not going to use anything yet until it gets published. I'm going to continue on with this project using 5e. I anticipate this printing before the 2024 revisions happen. Once that occurs, we don't know what's going to happen to the DMsGuild at all. So the DMsGuild could get shut down. We don't know. But assuming that the DMsGuild does stay active and it is a approved place for us to print 2024 D&D, then what'll end up happening is when you purchase something on DriveThruRPG or DMsGuild, you always have access to previous versions of a document. When the creator like myself uploads a new version of the same product, you can always go back and look at the previous stuff. So once this thing publishes as 5e, it's always going to be referenceable as a 5e document if you purchase. But once 1D&D goes into effect, we'll be able to go through the same process, take what's already been published, and then just revise based on what they do. Like the weapon masteries, for instance. I fully anticipate the weapon masteries, all the weapon masteries they offer, to become feats. So I don't know, what is it? Vex. Like Vex. When you learn Vex as a power, you can apply Vex to any weapon attack that you use, for instance. That's the easiest, lowest hanging fruit way for me to make it worth you spending a spell slot, quote unquote, to learn Vex. You can use it with anything. Push. When you learn this mastery as a power, you can use any weapon or unarmed attack to push. That way you'll have a whole stack of feats that you'll be able to learn. So if you want Vex, push, and like trip, if like those are the three things that you want as, say, a first level ranger, then you can just learn those three things and don't worry about your mana pool at all. You'll just be able to pick up those weapon masteries to use with anything. But if you don't want to spend the powers to do that, you can just grab yourself a knife and Vex with that, or however it is, because we don't know anything that they're doing is going to stick. Though I like how much of what they're doing for marshals are already in here. It's ultimately just going to make us be able to simplify this product and make it just that much easier for people to pick it up once the 2024 comes out. This will just make that much more sense, honestly. Yeah, I certainly hope. So let's go back to reactions. I think there's probably a reaction we can use at this point. That'll be cool. Strikes. Let's see. Countering attack as a reaction to when an enemy within range of your weapon attack casts a spell. Make an opportunity. Like this would change to when as a reaction to when an enemy within range of your weapon attack uses the magic action. Make an opportunity attack. If it hits, the caster takes the target takes damage and must make a Constitution saving throw against your channeling DC, or half the damage dealt, whichever is greater. If the save fails, the action fails. Currently there is no magic action, so it's just against spellcasting. But that would be a way for us to be able to come through and modify this. So once we see what 1D&D does and how they update the language, it'll be easy for us to go through and recode all of this stuff. But I want it published first, so just to have it stand out. Like in case you like want to use Tales of Valiant for some reason, then this book would still make sense for people that do that. But let's see. One's own luck. As a reaction to rolling one or more power dice, you can re-roll any number of dice and take the higher result. Stolen Fate. Stolen Fate doesn't feel right for an Inquisitive, but countering attack kind of does. It's expensive, but I like it. Yeah, let's go with it. You know, I'm just going to get rid of that. I don't need that anymore. Oh, that's right. We were going to look at invisible stuff. Let's see. I think there might be a maneuver that we can use in here. And again, you got anyone else can kick through and look at all these options yourself by clicking into my Patreon and going to the About, where it talks about martial powers. There is a link for you to view this document as well. Let's see. Maneuvers. Coordinated. Curse the Eyeless. You curse a creature you can see to reduce the result of all attack rolls by the highest result of the one power die. That's a cool thing, but Muddled Mind. You curse a creature you see to roll ability checks and concentration checks with a disadvantage. Distract. No reaction until it succeeds end of each turn. Just a flat-out distraction. That's kind of cool, but... Ooh. Let's see. Let's see a saving throw against your powers. Pack Tactics, Regeneration, Shunt, Lift, Curse of Enfeeblement, Double Strike, Telekinetic, Wave of Terror. No, I was wrong. Let's go down to Exploits and see if there's anything cool. First Strike. That doesn't feel inquisitive. Opportunistic. When you make an opportunity attack, you can attack the same creature twice. I love that, but it's expensive, but I like it. Precise attack. You can make an attack roll with advantage and roll 1 power die per mana channeled, adding the highest roll to your result. I like that. Unnerving Focus, Tactical Assessment, History, Insight, Investigation, add 1 power die, Swift Tools, Subtle Channeling, Resilient. Let's see. Natural Hunter. Oh, that's what it was. Sustained power. Right. Blind Sense. You are aware of the location of any creature or object on the same plane of existence as you are within 10 feet times your proficiency bonus. At 13th level, that'll be, what, a +5? Yeah. So within 50 feet of you. Including walls, doors, ceilings, and of structure and range, though you can't identify things like color or written text on these objects using Blind Sense alone. Blind Sense is a great way for you to be able to go with Unerring Eye, which is beginning at 13th level. You sense your senses are almost impossible to foil as an action. You can sense the presence of illusions, shape changers, not in their original form, and other magic designed to deceive your senses within 30 feet of you, provided you aren't blinded or deafened. Your senses that are affected is attempting to trick you, but you gain no insight into what is hidden or into its true nature. So Blind Sense would complement that by giving you the ability to target things that are invisible, even though you wouldn't be able to see them. So I think that is a great compliment. Blind Sense, which is a sustained 1, comma. And at 13th level, we gain access to fourth rank skills. So let's fourth rank powers. So let's go see what fourth rank offers us. Since we picked up Blind Sense already, where'd I go? Right, Blind Sense. Got something else to grab. Let's look at our fourth level stuff. Fourth rank. Master of Fate. When you trigger this power, roll 3 d20 fate dice. When you later roll a d20 while this power is sustained, you can choose to replace the result of any one of these fate dice. Each fate die can be used once. While this power is sustained, you can burn 1 mana as a bonus action during your turn, ignoring your max channel limit to do so, to roll an additional fate die, replacing any results or regaining an expended fate die. Unused fate dice are lost when the power is dismissed. I love that. It's basically just giving you luck feat, like the divination ability out of the wizard. It's a floating pool that you can spend mana to refresh. I love that, but I don't think it's quite appropriate for like that. That'll be great for the side blade when we get there, but I don't think for the Inquisitive specifically. So let's see, what else might we have that the Inquisitive could find as cool? Let's see. Mind Sense upgrade. While sustaining this power, you can sense the location of and communicate telepathically with any creature with intelligence above 3 within 60 feet, even if you can't see them. In addition, you can determine if the creature is a friendly, neutral, or hostile disposition towards you and your allies, even if the creature is attempting to conceal this information. That feels very Inquisitive, actually, so I'm going to go with that. Mind Sense, which is a second rank sustained power. And Mind Sense, there you go, Sus 2. All the senses at this level. Okay, 17th level, 5th rank. You gain access to 5th rank power, but Interestingly enough, there are no 5th rank powers. So everything that you could possibly do with this, with these power systems, you have access to at 13th level. You have all the bells and whistles that you want by then, so you can play with all the toys, like say in Descent into Avernus, which is designed to conclude at level 15. You're not going to go wanting for things that you don't have access to. That was one of the major design decisions of this project, to give you access to all the toys in the toolbox as early as possible while still forcing you to fight your way up to them. So that means that nothing's going to get more expensive, but with 5 ranks, we can just sustain more things or dump more mana into something. Even though a power might have, like, say, it might be 3rd rank, you could dump 5 mana into that power to get more dice out of it. So let's see if there's any exploits, actions, or whatnot that might be fun with this. Let's start at the very beginning and then roll our way into it. Cooperative effort, empowered synergy. When you use a bonus action to channel a maneuver, you can make a weapon attack as part of the bonus action. I don't think we have enough maneuvers here to really warrant that. Unstoppable, that's less so rogue, though you could certainly take it. Let's see. Coordinated attack, coordinated dash, cursed eyeless, distract, goad, healing radiance, rally, restraining hold, swift assessment, swift attunement, swift resuscitation, cursed brand. You curse a creature you can see to make saving throws against your powers with disadvantage. The effect ends when the creature succeeds a save against them. I like that mechanic. This stays active until they can succeed against anything that you do. It's neat. Like, if you don't target them with anything that they have to make a saving throw, it's pointless. So you'd be cursing them. And since it's a maneuver, you can either use an action or a bonus action to trigger that. So if you have other things that you want to do this round, you can target your opponent with the come back. There. Cursed brand. Cursed brand. What have we seen? What have we seen inside the character that has saving throws already? Blinding strike, countering attack. Cursed brand is actually, I kind of like that. That is a maneuver 2, comma, 1 more. One last thing, and then we'll be done for the day. Let's see. Theurgy. Pack tactics, regeneration, shunt lift, enfeeblement, TK, terror, incapacitation, paralyze, controlled fall, curse of exposure, deflection, downtrodden, evasion, feint, oppose, opt. As a reaction to rolling an ability check, but before determining success, you can re-roll the d20 and take the highest result. That's not bad. We can opt for opt if we want. I'm going to pencil that in here real quick. Maybe opt. Not guaranteed yet. If we can't find something better, we'll go with opt. On top of the monk, once they implement that, assuming that they keep the increased sneak attack dice, or the increased martial art die, one of the benefits of using the monk with this system is you can use the monk's martial art die instead of the power die, and that would go from D6, D8, D10, and then eventually D12, as opposed to this system which caps out at D10. So that would be like here, the monk would be at D12. So the monk is just going to be better at martial powers universally because the die roll they're going to use is higher. But they'd start off the same. And I love that change about the system. I had already implemented a D10, a D6 through D10 myself, but just to raise the floor. But I think that's a great addition. I'm happy with them doing that. Let's see. So we have opt, which is re-roll a die. You can use your reaction to re-roll the d20. That's always good, and it's inexpensive, so it's easy to use. It's only one. Is that one? Up one? Is there something better? Like, we haven't picked hardly any strikes because chances are, as a player, you're going to pick out a crap load of strikes that you like. It's just because you can use your sneak attack perpetually with these things. So, like, life stealing is great. Every time you hit them, you get temporary hit points. That's just tanky. I love it. But so as a result, I don't feel a need to give you any strikes. You're going to end up wanting to take strikes, most likely. So what else sits inside inspired? We already have inspired skill. Omnilinguist isn't bad, but it doesn't really say 17th level, does it? In addition, Swift Assessment. Swift Assessment's not bad. You can add your proficiency bonus when you're making an ability check that can use the perception or insight skill. If you are already proficient with either skill, you instead add the bonus twice as though you have the expertise in these skills. In addition, you can make a wisdom or intelligence, perception, and insight check once during each of your turns as a bonus action, including the turn you channel this power. Swift Assessment. Okay, let's check out what we get already. So, Eye for Weakness. You learn an exploited creature, you deal extra sneak attack. That's awesome. Unerring Eye. You can detect things. Steady Eye. You have advantage on Wisdom, Perception, and Investigation. Is it Eye for Detail? Starting at 3rd level, you can use a bonus action to make a perception to spot a hidden creature or object. An insight check here to determine whether a creature is lying. Neat. Let's go with that. Let's take Swift Assessment. I think it's a little bit better than Opt. Let's do this instead. Let's push 9 cents to 17, and let's go with Swift Assessment. That is a 1st rank sustained power. So we got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We give you 7 ranks worth of sustained powers, but at best you can only sustain 5 of them. So if you were to take, just to point it out, if you were to take Efficient Power, what that does is Efficient Power. Choose a power you have learned at second rank or higher. Reduce the rank and amount of mana to channel the power by 1. If you later swap this power for another, you must also swap Efficient Power for another power. You can take this feat more than once, reducing the cost of a different 2nd rank or higher martial power. With each Efficient Power you choose, limit 1 per power. So if you wanted to, you could spend 2 of the powers that you learn on your own to reduce Astute and to reduce Mind Sense to 1st rank instead of 2nd. So you'd be able to sustain literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 of the sustained powers that you gain as an Inquisitive. You can sustain all of them because you reduce the cost of 2 of them by 1 each. So everything all together as a full kit is only 5. So anyway, that's where we're at. Let's see, how are we looking on our timestamp? We've been live for over an hour. That's my lunch. So we do this every week on Tuesdays, typically. But Tuesday's a holiday tomorrow, so I won't be around. So I did it today instead. I will also be back in about 5 hours. Yeah, I'll be back in about. Oh no, I'm going to be back in 3 hours. I'm going to have We're going to do Eberron cartography today. We're going to do it early because I want to be done at 7. I've got some plans going on tonight. So from 5 to 7 this afternoon, I'll be doing Eberron cartography. I'll be back tomorrow morning to do more Spelljammer page art. And we'll be back again next week to do more of the martial power system. So if you think this stuff is cool, you want to find more, you like my art, you want to see what I'm doing with maps, like, subscribe, check in, stick around, and thanks a lot for being here, guys. I'm out.